When I married Jerry, I was lucky to inherit some property from my grandparents. They suggested I use it to secure our future, but advised me to keep it a secret, even from Jerry. They thought it was wise to have some income that only I knew about, ensuring I would always be financially secure. Unfortunately, Jerry often crosses boundaries with possessions and finances. For example, he has tried to give away gifts from my parents to his parents to make himself look good. This upset me, especially when he reacted badly when confronted. Recently, a big issue arose. I discovered that $22,000 had been taken from an account meant for our living expenses. This account was supposed to support the income Jerry contributed. I didn't remember making such a large withdrawal, so I concluded that Jerry must have taken the money. When I asked him about it, he admitted he had lent the money to his mother, Kayla, without my knowledge. This was shocking because it showed a lack of communication and respect for our financial decisions. It made me rethink our relationship. If our marriage can't be built on mutual respect and honesty, especially about finances, we might need to consider our future together. The idea that one spouse can take what the other has without discussing it isn't sustainable. If this approach remains, we might have to consider separating. It's okay, I suppose. The money was mine that I earned. We have some savings, so the loss shouldn't be too bad. If Kayla was in trouble, I understand the need to help, but a simple conversation with me would have been appreciated. The account is ours, after all. If Jerry had taken the money from a personal account he set up before we married, I would have minded, but not as much. Taking such a large amount from our shared account without discussion felt like a breach of trust. When I expressed my disappointment, Jerry was dismissive. He frowned, irritated, and reluctantly promised to inform me next time before taking such actions. He then quickly excused himself to the bathroom. This left me feeling uneasy. It wasn't like the early days of our marriage when Jerry would listen sincerely and value my input. Is this what change looks like in a marriage? A few days later, I went to my in-laws' home to deliver a package mistakenly sent to our address. My mother-in-law, Amy, greeted me warmly and invited me in for tea. I accepted, even though I just wanted to leave the package. While there, I noticed several luxurious items around their house: expensive cosmetics, stylish clothing, and various health products. Amy casually mentioned that these were gifts from Jerry. I realized that the $22,000 had been spent extravagantly. The casual way this spending was treated made me question not only our financial partnership, but also the respect and communication in our marriage. When I found out that Jerry had lent the money to his mother because she was in need, I tried to understand. However, seeing that the funds were spent on luxury items didn't sit well with me. As I sat quietly sipping my tea, the atmosphere shifted noticeably. My in-laws' smiles faded, and they looked at me with a mix of fear and accusation. "My son is such a wonderful, generous boy, always buying gifts for me," my mother-in-law started, her tone turning confrontational. "But what about you?" asked his wife. "Are you taking good care of my wonderful son? There seems to be some trouble. I hear he mentioned getting a lot of blame from you for using the money to help me." It became clear that Jerry had made himself look like a victim to his parents, a good son just helping his mother. This revelation exhausted my patience with my in-laws and with Jerry. I had never expected such a lack of support and understanding in my marriage, making me seriously consider divorce. I started imagining a future where, after a divorce, I would move back to my parents' home, a two-story house over 32 years old, designed before my brother was born. It used to house our family of 5 comfortably, but now stood largely empty and was becoming impractical for my aging parents, who struggled with mobility. The house had some modifications, like handrails, but its spacious layout was hard for them to navigate. A one-story house would be much better for them. With my financial security from the inherited property, I could rebuild their home to be more comfortable and accessible. Filled with a mix of resolve and relief, I called my parents to discuss my plans for a divorce and the idea of rebuilding their house. Surprisingly, my parents weren't shocked by the news. Their reaction only solidified my decision, as it seemed they too understood the need for a change, supporting my desire to start anew and build a better environment for our family. The news of rebuilding their home brought genuine joy to my parents. Over the phone, I could sense their happiness as they thanked me. "I'm glad that you're planning to rebuild it for us. Thank you," they said. They reassured me that even if they couldn't live there for long, it wouldn't be a problem, as I could eventually take over the house since it was funded by my income. "Well then, I'll start preparing and planning it bit by bit," I replied, encouraged by their support. "Take it easy, just don't overdo it," they advised, their words lifting my spirits instantly. As I began organizing the rebuild of my parents' house, I awaited a response from the construction company. However, before any progress was made, Jerry confronted me aggressively. "How dare you use our savings to build a house without telling me anything about it?" he accused as we sat across from each other at the living room table. He banged his fist on the table, his voice rising without any regard for my feelings. "Well, my parents will live in the new house." I firmly stated that it was impossible because the house was meant for my parents. Jerry roared, insisting that since the house was built with what he thought was our shared property, his parents had a right to live in it too. "Are you planning to cram 5 people into that little one-story house? Just give me the house then," Jerry demanded, hitting the table louder. Worried about his reaction if he discovered the passive income I had kept secret, I decided it was time to reveal the whole truth. "To tell you the truth, I have passive income," I confessed. "I've been saving from the real estate gifted to me by my grandparents. I've paid for the rebuild with that passive income, so I didn't take a penny out of our common property." Feeling guilty for breaking a promise to my grandparents to keep this a secret, I watched as Jerry's reaction grew even more intense. He shook with anger and pounded the table harder. "What a bad wife you are, hiding the fact that you have an income. You play around with my money and protect your own by keeping secrets." His words stung, but they also clarified the deep issues in our marriage, issues of trust, respect, and shared goals, all of which seemed increasingly insurmountable. Seeing Jerry's face flush with rage, I suddenly grasped why my grandparents had advised me to keep my passive income a secret. Perhaps they had seen something in Jerry that I hadn't recognized until now. "I'll take the house as a lemony. Besides, any house you build while we're married is mine too. I am the head of the family, and if you disobey me, I will divorce you," he declared arrogantly. I was overwhelmed with dismay. How had I spent so many years with a man who could so easily disregard my feelings and contributions? Initially, I had planned to use the passive income for our future, especially if Jerry's earnings were insufficient or if I was unable to work due to injury or illness. It was meant to be a safety net to support both of us, something I intended to share with him when the time was right. But now I no longer wished to use that money on him. Fed up, I stood up and left the house, needing space from the stifling atmosphere. I spent the night at a business hotel to clear my head and plan my next steps. Upon returning home the next morning, Jerry was waiting with a sly, unsettling smile. He approached me smirking and presented a sheet of paper he had been hiding. It was a set of divorce papers already filled out. "You're lying about your passive income, aren't you? You lied about it to hide that you were taking money from our shared property, didn't you?" he accused. His accusations were baseless and repetitive. Even though I was telling the truth and actually had passive income, he refused to believe me. "It's the truth. I have passive income," I insisted, but he wouldn't listen. Jerry's inability to trust and respect me was the last straw, making it clear that this marriage couldn't provide the support or partnership I needed. The next steps of legally separating our lives seemed unavoidable. Jerry shoved the divorce papers into my hand with a smirk and said, "You'll let me know when we can move in, okay?" He then patted me on the shoulder, walked out the door humming, and mentioned he was going out for a drink. At that moment, I saw who Jerry really was. Throughout our marriage, he had hidden his contempt for me, never truly valuing my feelings or perspectives. This realization hurt, but also set me free. I didn't waste any time. I packed up my things, filled out the divorce papers, and left our home right away. I moved in with my parents for now and explained everything to them. We agreed that I would stay with them until my new house was ready. The next day, my phone was filled with missed calls from Jerry, and he called again. I answered, hoping this would be our last conversation. "Hello." "Hey, all your stuff is gone, you know," he said, sounding confused and impatient. Why was he so worried? He was the one who wanted the divorce. "We're getting a divorce, so it's normal that I won't be coming back. Feel free to use the empty space however you like," I told him, trying to make my point clear. There was a pause. Maybe at that moment, Jerry realized I had income he couldn't control. Then, in a surprisingly sweet tone I had never heard before, he asked, "Can you let my parents live in the new house? I don't mind living with your parents. Please." I was shocked. "I already told you it's a small one-story house," I reminded him. "It's meant as a surprise for my parents." His suggestion was ridiculous. He was trying to give away a house he didn't buy and acted like it was his to give. His disregard for the truth was puzzling. "You don't care about the savings, do you? You have no idea how much I worried about the money I gave you and what I saved for our living expenses," he continued. This conversation just confirmed my decision. Jerry's understanding of our finances and relationship was completely off. It was clear that moving forward without him was not just a choice but a necessity. As I tried to explain the effort I had put into managing our finances and making ends meet, he ignored the significance of my struggles. "That has nothing to do with what's happening here. You're just careless with money and leave all the hassle to others. And you act like you did everything yourself for your parents, right?" I confronted him, pointing out how he often took credit for my hard work. Jerry's sudden silence only added to my frustration. It was clear he was trying to take credit for everything and wanted to give the house I built for my parents to his own family, using my honesty to impress them. It was shallow and deceitful. In the end, you're just trying to take advantage of my kindness and claim my property. There's no way to justify you trampling on my feelings and intentions like this. I won't give you the house I built with all my heart for my parents just so you can show off, I said firmly, rejecting his request outright. Jerry got louder, maybe out of desperation. But husbands and wives are supposed to help each other. I'll tell everyone that you built it, please. We're not a married couple anymore, are we? We're strangers now since I've already filed for divorce. I reminded him, making it clear that the boundaries had to be respected. On the day Jerry gave me the divorce papers, I submitted them to the city office right away. He had been the one pushing for the divorce, but when it became real, he seemed shocked. Yeah, you already filed it. Why are you surprised when you're the one who wanted the divorce? Oh, I didn't think you'd actually leave me. Let's start over. Let's talk it out and try to be a good couple this time, he pleaded, as if he didn't grasp the seriousness of his actions. How could he say this now? This was the same man who had wasted our savings on his mother, threatened me with divorce, and mocked me until the end. There was no chance for reconciliation. No, thank you. Please give my regards to your parents, I said cheerfully before ending the call. The next day, my phone was bombarded with voicemails and messages from Jerry, still insisting that we get back together. His persistence was confusing and unwelcome, confirming my decision to move on without him. Jerry claimed we could start over and that he loved me, but I felt he was more interested in my property and money than in our relationship. To cut ties completely, I blocked all his contact information and that of his parents. Meanwhile, the new house was finished, and my parents and I moved in. We're now living comfortably in the home I built. Later, I met with a mutual friend who also knew Jerry and shared the news of our divorce. My friend offered sympathy and updated me on what had happened with Jerry and his family. It turned out that Jerry had suddenly quit his job, saying he no longer needed to work hard because he had real estate. However, his company was left in a difficult spot because they couldn't reach him. The next day, Jerry tried to take back his resignation, but his bosses, frustrated by his sudden disappearance and the trouble it caused, gave him a stern lecture. They demanded an explanation, but Jerry, unable to admit he had been relying on my income, lied about his situation. Eventually, the truth about our divorce came out, and his lies were exposed. His company refused to rehire him, realizing he had tried to manipulate the situation. Jerry, who had previously mocked my passive income, was now in a tough spot. He moved back in with his parents, who were understandably upset, and is now struggling to find a new job due to his questionable departure from his last job. It seems he's facing the consequences of his actions. Meanwhile, my life has taken a positive turn. I'm living with my parents in the house I built, working in a job I love, and enjoying life. The passive income I had saved for our future will now support those who have truly stood by me. This new chapter has brought me a sense of renewal and peace, confirming that moving on was the best decision for my well-being.
I am Amelia, a 32-year-old office worker, entangled in the intricate web of familial relationships. My husband, Jack, and I live what seems like an ordinary life, yet beneath the surface, shadows lurk. The source of our turmoil is my relentless mother-in-law, a stern figure who demands a hefty monthly toll of $2,500 from both Jack and me. Her criticisms cut sharp, slicing through my self-esteem, and her demands weigh heavily upon us. One day, driven by curiosity, I stumble upon a shocking revelation hidden within my mother-in-law's mobile phone, a clandestine empire valued at $3 million. The discovery ignites a spark within me. Why does she demand our money when she possesses such immense wealth? I decide to cease the monthly allowances, unwittingly setting off a chain of events that will unravel our lives. Little do I know, this decision will expose a clandestine business and force our family to confront the shadows of deception. As the tale unfolds, suspense thickens, and we embark on a journey into the labyrinth of revenge and relationships. Betrayal echoes, hidden alliances crumble, and financial secrets resonate, hinting at a tumultuous narrative that will test the endurance of love and loyalty. With the revelation of my mother-in-law's hidden empire, our household transforms into a battleground of emotion. Jack grapples with conflicting loyalties, torn between the woman he married and the mother who concealed a web of deceit. As tension simmers, my resolve to unveil the truth solidifies. Determined to confront my mother-in-law, I delve deeper into her clandestine dealings. The $3 million empire wasn't merely a symbol of financial opulence. It was a testament to the shadows lurking within our seemingly normal family. With each revelation, I uncover her involvement in a secretive business venture with her elusive friend. Armed with evidence, I confront her, the air thickening with tension as I expose her hidden dealings. Instead of remorse or guilt, a cold rage flickers in her eyes. She vehemently denies any wrongdoing, deflecting blame onto me. In her eyes, the web of secrets tightens, and the stage is set for a gripping tale of betrayal and redemption. I, the intruder, disrupted the delicate balance she meticulously crafted. Anger escalated as I decided to cease the monthly allowances. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was a power struggle, a battle for control over our lives. In retaliation, she pressured Jack to divorce me, threatening to unravel the carefully constructed facade of our family. Despite the escalating tension, I stood my ground, unwilling to succumb to her manipulations. Within our household, the strain on our marriage became palpable. Jack faced an ultimatum, torn between his loyalty to me and the familial ties that bound him. Hoping that truth would prevail, I held on, anticipating an unexpected twist. In a shocking turn of events, Jack decided to stand by my side. The revelation of his mother's manipulations shattered his illusions, and he grappled with the realization that the woman he had revered harbored dark secrets. Jack exposed the truth to his mother, forcing her to confront the consequences of her actions. Initially resistant and angered, she begrudgingly admitted her wrongs as the weight of truth bore down upon her. The facade of sternness crumbled, revealing vulnerability beneath. Torn between love for his mother and the betrayal he felt, Jack extended forgiveness, urging her to rectify the damage. In a surprising twist, my mother-in-law apologized, acknowledging the pain she had caused. It was a moment of reconciliation that shattered expectations of vengeance, leaving us all in a state of uneasy truce. The shadows of deceit lifted, but the scars remained, creating an intricate tapestry of forgiveness and fractured trust. As the echoes of the confrontation faded, we grappled with the aftermath, attempting to rebuild amidst the ruins of revelations. Little did we know that the journey had only just begun, and the suspense hung thick in the air, hinting at the twists and turns yet to unfold in our quest for redemption. The reconciliation with my mother-in-law brought a fragile peace to our household, but beneath the surface, scars lingered, remnants of a battle fought and truths revealed. Jack and I tried to rebuild our lives, navigating the delicate terrain of forgiveness and trust. However, the aftermath of the confrontation continued to cast its shadow. Despite my mother-in-law's apology, a lingering doubt persisted. Could we truly move forward, or was this merely a temporary ceasefire? The unease in our home mirrored the unsettled weather that heralds an impending storm. Days turned into weeks as Jack and I cautiously embraced the semblance of normalcy. Yet a nagging question haunted my thoughts. What motivated my mother-in-law's sudden change of heart? The apology felt like a strategic move on the chessboard of familial dynamics. A chance discovery fueled my suspicions while going through some old family documents. I stumbled upon a connection between my mother-in-law's mysterious friend and a series of questionable transactions. The threads of deceit unraveled further, weaving a more intricate tapestry of hidden alliances. Driven by curiosity and a sense of self-preservation, I delved deeper into the web of secrets. The friend, once a shadowy figure on the periphery, emerged as a key player in my mother-in-law's clandestine business. It became apparent that the reconciliation was a facade, a tactical retreat to buy time. As I confronted my mother-in-law with the newfound evidence, her demeanor shifted. Gone was the contrite woman seeking forgiveness. In her place stood a defiant figure unwilling to yield. The apology had been a ruse, a means to deflect suspicion while she recalibrated her plans. A sense of betrayal gripped me as I realized the depth of her deception. The fragile trust we had tentatively rebuilt shattered once again in a chilling revelation. She admitted to orchestrating the entire charade, manipulating emotions to maintain control. The realization fueled a surge of determination within me. No longer content to be a pawn in her game, I sought to expose the truth to the world. With Jack by my side, we unraveled the intricate threads of her deceit, laying bare the intricacies of her hidden empire. The revelation sent shockwaves through our extended family and social circles. The once stern matriarch became a pariah, shunned by those who had blindly followed her lead. However, even in her downfall, she clung to stubborn pride, refusing to acknowledge defeat. As the dust settled, Jack and I faced a crossroads. The quest for justice had exposed the darkest corners of our family, leaving us with a choice: to sever ties completely or attempt to rebuild amidst the ruins. The suspense lingered, and the journey towards redemption took an unforeseen turn. The aftermath of my mother-in-law's calculated deception left our family fractured, caught in the crossfire of revelations and broken trust. Jack and I grappled with the repercussions, navigating a delicate dance of rebuilding amidst the ruins. As the truth about my mother-in-law's hidden empire unfolded, our extended family recoiled in shock. The once respected matriarch became an outcast, abandoned by those who had blindly followed her lead. The social circles that had once revered her now whispered tales of deceit and betrayal. Yet in the midst of her downfall, when my mother-in-law clung to stubborn pride, she refused to acknowledge the gravity of her actions, maintaining a facade of indifference. The aftermath of her exposure brought a chilling realization. The shadows of deceit had not dissipated. They merely lurked, waiting for an opportune moment to resurface. As Jack and I faced the choice of whether to sever ties completely or attempt to rebuild, the echoes of revenge and the pursuit of truth lingered. The wounds inflicted by my mother-in-law's deception ran deep, and the road to redemption seemed elusive amidst the turmoil. A newfound determination welled within me, fueling the journey forward. I longed for closure, not just for myself, but for the sake of our fractured family. The quest for justice became a relentless pursuit, urging us to unravel every thread of deceit woven into our lives. With each revelation, the complexity of my mother-in-law's hidden empire deepened. The mysterious friend, once a shadowy figure, emerged as a central player in the clandestine business. Layers of deception peeled away, exposing a network of alliances and a web of financial intricacies. Confrontations became battlegrounds of emotions as I sought to extract the truth from my mother-in-law's defiant facade. The apology, once a calculated move to deflect suspicion, hung in the air as a testament to the lengths she would go to maintain control. As tension within our family reached its peak, I found solace in Jack's unwavering support. Our bond, tested by revelations, strengthened amidst the chaos. Together, we faced the storm that had swept through our lives, determined to weather the aftermath. But the shadows of deceit were not easily dispelled. In the silent moments between confrontations and revelations, a lingering doubt persisted. What other secrets lurked beneath the surface, waiting to be unearthed? The suspense thickened, casting a veil of uncertainty over our attempts at reconciliation. The aftermath of my mother-in-law's exposed empire left palpable tension in our family, an unsettling undercurrent reverberating through our attempts at reconciliation. Jack and I, tethered by the shared ordeal, faced the daunting task of rebuilding amidst the debris of broken trust. My mother-in-law's once stern facade had crumbled, and the social circles that had once hailed her as a matriarch now distanced themselves, leaving her in the isolation of her own making. Amidst this fractured landscape, I continued my relentless pursuit of justice, unraveling the remaining threads of deception that led me to unexpected places. Each revelation further complicated the narrative, pulling us deeper into the labyrinth of deceit. Confrontations with my mother-in-law became battlegrounds of emotion as she clung to remnants of pride that shielded her from the gravity of her actions. The apology she had once offered, a calculated move, now seemed like a feeble attempt to salvage what little remained of her tarnished reputation. As the dust settled on the exposed empire, Jack and I grappled with our own wounds. The trust shattered by revelations became a fragile thread we attempted to mend. Our attempts at rebuilding were marred by persistent shadows of deceit, casting doubt on the sincerity of every gesture. The extended family, still reeling from the shock of betrayal, remained a fractured unit. The rifts ran deep, and the scars left by my mother-in-law's actions lingered like an indelible mark. In the silence between conversations, unspoken questions hung in the air, threatening to unravel the delicate balance we attempted to restore amidst the turmoil. A sense of uncertainty prevailed, overshadowing the pursuit of truth, while unveiling the layers of deception had opened wounds that refused to heal. Closure remained elusive, and the road to redemption seemed fraught with obstacles. Yet in the midst of the chaos, a glimmer of hope emerged. Jack and I, united by the shared journey, discovered a resilience that transcended the turmoil. The echoes of revenge and betrayal had not eclipsed the enduring bonds that held our family together, however fragile they may have become. As we navigated the aftermath, the suspense thickened, and the shadows of our past clung to us, a constant reminder that closure was a distant destination, and the journey continued veiled in uncertainty. What lay ahead remained unknown, and the pursuit of truth held the promise of either liberation or further entanglement in the intricate web of family secrets. The aftermath of the unveiled secrets hung heavy in the air, casting a pall over our family. Jack and I, united in our resilience, faced the daunting task of rebuilding amidst the lingering echoes of betrayal. The fractures ran deep, but beneath the surface, a fragile hope persevered as we attempted to mend the threads of trust. My mother-in-law remained a solitary figure, and the isolation that enveloped her was a consequence of her own choices, a stark realization of the repercussions of deceit. In her solitude, she confronted the shadows that had once been her allies. The extended family, still grappling with the shockwaves of betrayal, stood at a crossroads. The rifts, though profound, held the potential for healing, a delicate dance of forgiveness and reconciliation, a journey that demanded introspection and a willingness to let go of the past. Our attempts at rebuilding were punctuated by moments of uncertainty. The pursuit of truth, while liberating, had left scars that refused to fade, and closure remained elusive as ever, beckoning on the distant horizon, a destination we approached with cautious optimism. In the midst of the tumult, unexpected alliances emerged. The shared ordeal became a crucible that forged new connections, binding our family in a tapestry of resilience. The shadows of deceit, though not entirely dispelled, no longer held dominion over our lives as we stood on the precipice of a new chapter. The suspense thickened, and the journey, fraught with twists and turns, had transformed us. The pursuit of justice had unearthed hidden facets of our family, but it had also paved the way for redemption. The final confrontation with my mother-in-law became a moment of reckoning. Stripped of the pride that once shielded her, she faced the consequences of her actions. In a surprising twist, a glimmer of remorse flickered in her eyes. The acknowledgement of wrongdoing, however belated, marked a crucial step towards healing. In the quiet moments that followed, the extended family grappled with forgiveness. The choice to move forward, while challenging, held the promise of a renewed bond. The shadows of deceit, once menacing, now served as a reminder of the resilience that emerged from the chaos. As Jack and I reflected on the journey, we discovered newfound strength in our relationship. The shared adversity had deepened our connection, transforming the fractures into a mosaic of shared experiences. The pursuit of truth had not only exposed the darkness, but had also illuminated the path towards renewal. The story, marked by revenge, betrayal, and redemption, reached its conclusion. The echoes of the past lingered, but the family, scarred yet resilient, embraced the uncertainty of the future. Closure, though elusive, was no longer the sole destination. The journey, with its twists and turns, had become the essence of our story, a narrative of transformation and the enduring power of familial bonds. And so, we stepped into the unknown, our hearts tempered by the shadows of the past, but with a flicker of hope guiding us toward an uncertain yet promising horizon. I'm Mary, and I just turned 35 this year on a summer day filled with birdsong. Today, my mom, who is also my boss, called me into her office. "What do you need?" I asked. Without looking away from her desk, bothered by the heat, she told me she's giving the company to my sister, and that I'm fired starting today. The bright summer sun made it hard to process. I must have sounded surprised. Annoyed, my mom looked at me and said, "Didn't you hear? You're fired? We don't want negativity here. Leave by the end of the month." With that, she went back to her documents, signaling the conversation was over. In that office with only bird sounds, I was still processing when she scolded me. "Why are you still here? Get back to work now." I mechanically stepped back, said, "Excuse me," and left, closing the door. Our company is a modest 2-story building, a demolition business with around 10 employees. It's a family affair, led by my mom as the president, with my aunt and her husband as executive directors, and my mom's cousins as managing directors. Despite the family ties, it's evident that my mom holds the majority of the power. Initially, after high school, I started working at an accounting firm. However, at 25, my mom informed me that our company needed an accountant and guilt-tripped me, saying, "Are you going to abandon your family in trouble? You'll regret it in the end." Reluctantly, I joined our family business. But my role wasn't limited to accounting. Whenever there was a shortage of hands, my mom piled paperwork and various tasks on me. I even found myself doing sales. In essence, I became the company's go-to person for everything. To avoid being a burden, I dedicated long hours from morning till night and somehow managed to handle the diverse responsibilities thrown my way over the past decade. On the flip side, my sister Lucy, who was set to take over the company, is 3 years younger at 32. She had only joined the company 2 years prior, having hopped from job to job, claiming they weren't a good fit for her. Around 30, Lucy stopped job hunting and spent her days lounging at home. That's when my mother decided Lucy needed a job that suited her and appointed her as an executive director in our company. Despite my 10 years of dedication, I remained a regular employee. The contrast in treatment between us sisters surprised everyone, but I wasn't shocked. My mother had always favored Lucy since childhood, showering her with any clothes or toys she desired and praising her cuteness. On the other hand, I received hand-me-downs, and my mother often brushed me aside, saying, "This is good enough for you." As a child, I didn't comprehend why I was treated differently. I worked hard at school and helped at home, hoping to gain my mother's attention. Even when I handed in my straight-A report, she barely acknowledged it. At one point, feeling unattractive, I even contemplated plastic surgery, thinking it might bring me the affection I craved. It was my aunt who eventually explained why my mother ignored me so much when she saw me in that state. During my high school years, I was informed that my father had passed away. However, the truth was that when Lucy was born, my father left my mother for a woman from his workplace. This woman, older than my mother and supposedly less attractive, had an aura similar to mine. My aunt, who is my mother's younger sister, casually remarked, "Your mom is a proud woman." I think she couldn't stand losing her husband to someone older and supposedly less attractive than herself. There was a distinct air of satisfaction in her tone, as if she found joy in my mother's troubles. By the way, my aunt's appearance was rather ordinary, leaning more towards my side of the family. She could be a handful, but she excelled at her job, often using her charm to get ahead. She continued, "My mother took charge of the family business at 32 when my father left her. Leveraging her striking beauty, she attracted and retained numerous clients, significantly boosting the business. Part of the success was due to the era, with many buildings needing demolition after reaching their lifespan. Consequently, neither my aunt's family nor my cousins could really oppose my mother. Lately, the expenses for industrial waste disposal and transportation have risen, making it challenging to maintain a balance between demolition costs and actual expenses. Our company, along with the entire industry, was facing tough times, struggling even to cover monthly employee salaries. In the midst of these difficulties, my younger sister joined as an executive director. I wondered how we would manage her salary, but my mother straightforwardly said, "We'll reduce your salary to pay hers. We're family, it's only natural, right? Even with a salary cut, It won't be enough for an executive director's pay. I argued reasonably, but as usual, Mom insisted. It's your responsibility to figure it out. Just make it work. I tentatively suggested, shouldn't Lucy start as a regular employee? My mother gave me a stern look and rebuked. Who do you think you're talking to? This isn't something for someone like you to interfere with. We were all living under the same roof at the time. Lucy didn't contribute financially to the household, whereas I contributed $1,500 every month. Even when Lucy joined the company, she didn't contribute anything to the house. Since I was young, I had been helping with household chores for my busy mother, while Lucy acted as if doing nothing was the norm. Hey sis, is dinner ready yet? Lucy would ask about dinner when I was working overtime. When I suggested she make something for herself, Lucy said, "What? I don't know what to make. The kitchen is your territory, right? I don't want to get scolded for using it without permission." You scolded me for that before. She never attempted to cook. Using that past incident as an excuse, Lucy neglected cleaning up after herself and never put things back where they belonged. She held a grudge for the scolding and used it as an excuse to avoid doing anything. I often had to reluctantly come home to prepare dinner and then head back to the office to continue working. My mother usually didn't cook dinner either. Despite my efforts to prepare meals, my sister Lucy often opted to eat out, choosing whatever she fancied. Lately, my mother's frequent business meals with Lucy meant I had less need to cook dinner. However, the surge in entertainment expenses became a new concern. At 63, my mother began complaining more about aches, pains, and the consequences of heavy drinking. During this period, I was summoned to the CEO's office and informed, "I'm handing the company over to Lucy. You, who are not as attractive, are fired." While I could understand the decision based on my mother's past actions, it was hard to accept being let go because of my appearance. Even if my salary was redirected to Lucy, I failed to see the merit in it. When I consulted my aunt, she already knew about Lucy becoming the CEO, but my termination was news to her. After some contemplation, my aunt mentioned, "I don't quite understand, but it seems Lucy has been saying behind the scenes that she doesn't like it when she tells everyone she'll handle something, and they say it's okay because they'll ask Mary for help. Maybe that's part of the reason." No, everyone stopped asking Lucy because she does sloppy work, right? Lucy was indeed incompetent, missing deadlines, making phone mistakes, and having numerous typos. Despite some work experience, she seemed oblivious to her lack of ability, perhaps because her beauty had always led men to cover for her, preventing her from reflecting on her actions. My aunt, acknowledging the situation, commented, "Well, that's true, but I think she considers you a nuisance." She expressed regret, saying, "I never thought they would let you go. The company won't be able to function without you." Though troubled, she refrained from confronting my mother, knowing she couldn't win. I felt a deep disgust being related to such an unreliable aunt. "So I'm basically disliked by both my mother and my sister, huh?" I said in a somber tone. My aunt, unsure how to respond, suggested, "Well, your sister is terrible. But don't you think you'd be better off working somewhere else with all your skills? It's a waste to stay here." I decided to quit. In her eyes, a faintly kind light of kinship shone. Standing in the car under the red glow of the summer twilight, staring at the distant mirage, I felt a sense of release. Maybe it's okay now. I turned to my aunt and said with a broad smile, "You're right." It was the first time I had smiled so genuinely since joining the company. My aunt, a bit puzzled by my smile, returned a somewhat sorrowful smile. As I busily created handover documents and organized files, the end of the month, my resignation date, arrived swiftly. When I entered the CEO's office on time, the once audible sound of birds was absent, and my mother and sister were engrossed in lively conversation. "That sales guy definitely has a thing for you." "You, that bald guy, no way." They laughed heartily, oblivious to my presence. When I cleared my throat, they finally turned around. My sister, with a curious look, said, "What's up? If it's about dinner tonight, we don't need it. I'm resigning today. Thank you for everything. Oh, is it today? I forgot. She laughed again, feeling refreshed, knowing I wouldn't have to see their faces anymore. I announced, I'm also moving out of the house, so please take care of yourselves. My mother mechanically responded, okay, good work, with an emotionless face. Closing the door, I heard my sister's voice saying, now we won't have to see that annoying face anymore. In my heart, I whispered, just you watch, and left the company I'd been part of for so long. A week later, after completing paperwork for a specific school, I checked my phone and noticed 14 missed calls from my mother within just 2 hours. Sensing an unsettling vibe, I decided not to return the call and switched my phone to silent. After finishing my other tasks, I headed home. The missed calls from my mother continued to accumulate, and by the next morning, the count had reached 80, with the last call made after 2 a.m. I had no intention of calling her back. She had become a stranger to me, and I had no desire to hear her voice. There were even fleeting thoughts that hearing her voice might lead me to comply with her words, considering I had been under her control for 35 years. Determined to break free from her influence, I resisted answering her calls. Although I could have blocked her number, I decided to let the calls go through, thinking they might serve as evidence of her actions in case something happened. Initially, receiving nearly 100 calls daily was distressing, and I detested seeing the incoming calls. However, as I grew accustomed to it, a sense of satisfaction arose, envisioning my mother's struggle with each unanswered call. I finally came to realize the extent of mistreatment I endured. A year passed in this manner. By then, my mother's calls had ceased, leaving me in the dark about her situation. Throughout this year, I balanced part-time work with online schooling for tax professionals, successfully passing the exams. Recently, I landed a position at a top tax consultancy firm. My practical experience, coupled with the broad perspective gained from diverse tasks at my mother's company, proved invaluable in my new role. I felt gratitude for the decade of hard work I dedicated to the company, especially at this juncture. The people at my new workplace were fantastic, collaborating seamlessly. It was a stark contrast to the past, where I navigated everything alone, pushed around by my mother and sister, silently researching and working into the night. While leading a fulfilling life, I had to visit a client near my mother's company. Passing by, I noticed the conspicuously dirty windows and entrance, along with the withered indoor plants that I once cared for. On my way back, I unexpectedly encountered my mother emerging from her company. Spotting me, she exclaimed, "Ah!" and rushed towards me. Anticipating criticism, I instinctively covered my face with my bag. To my surprise, my mother approached with a sweet, cajoling tone, asking, "Where have you been, Mary?" An uncomfortable shiver ran down my spine, and I instinctively recoiled. "I've called you so many times, you know." "Did you change your smartphone?" It seemed she hadn't even considered the possibility that my avoidance might stem from disdain. Given all she had done to me, I couldn't fathom her thought process. Ignoring my perplexed expression, she continued, "Oh, but it's a good thing I saw you. Look at the state of this company. It's dreadful, isn't it? You can start working from tomorrow. I'm not angry, you know." "Huh. So I forgive you for leaving a year ago. Please start coming to work from tomorrow." It took me a few seconds to grasp what my mother had just said. Did she only envision a little me crying and adoring her? Mom, I'm already working at another company, and I'm happy there." At my hesitant response, her face twisted into something monstrous, and she bellowed, "What? You're telling me you're working somewhere else while our company is in trouble? I don't give a damn about other companies. You're mine, understand?" Causing a scene in the middle of the street, I retorted, "Wait a minute, you're the one who fired me, remember? What about Lucy? What happened to her?" In response, my mother snorted and dismissively said, "Oh, Lucy. I thought she'd be more useful, but she was caught having affairs with 3 men from our key client. Needless to say, our dealings with them ended in a flash. If she was careful enough not to get caught, it would have been all right, so I kept her from the front office and made her do clerical work. but she couldn't even clean properly and was absolutely no good at accounting. Because of her, we couldn't even afford to hire someone else. After venting her frustrations, my mother turned to me with a grin. "That's why it's your turn, Mary. Ever since you left, the office has been in shambles. I need you to take responsibility." I had meticulously prepared a handover manual before leaving and had explained everything to Lucy. Lucy probably hadn't even glanced at the handover document, and I was certain my mother hadn't heard anything about it. Even if she did hear, she'd either not remember or pretend to have forgotten. I couldn't fathom why they would fire me and then ask me to take responsibility. This was how these women always acted, taking a tough stance, blaming others, and letting others clean up their mess. It was their usual trick. I bit my lower lip, thought of the kind faces of the people I was currently working with, and vowed to myself that this was the real world I had been living in. A chaotic world until now, but I wouldn't succumb to this pressure anymore. I couldn't fathom why they would fire me and then ask me to take responsibility. This was how these women always acted, taking a tough stance, blaming others, and letting others clean up their mess. It was their usual trick. I bit my lower lip, thought of the kind faces of the people I was currently working with, and vowed to myself that this was the real world I had been living in. A chaotic world until now, but I wouldn't succumb to this pressure anymore. You, the boss, were the one who fired me, right? My mother appeared slightly taken aback by the change in my tone. And you fired me because I'm not attractive. Isn't that the reason? A crowd had gathered around us, drawn in by our argument. Aware of the eyes on her, my mother stammered. "Did I say something like that? Are you sure you didn't misunderstand?" "No, I heard it crystal clear. You're handing over the company to my beautiful sister and dismissing me because I'm not as visually pleasing." I questioned her decision, explaining how I had dedicated a decade of hard work to the company, while my sister, who barely contributed, was handed the reins after just 2 years. The crowd began to murmur, expressing disbelief and sympathy. Can that really happen? That's terrible. Are they even related by blood? Some started recording the scene, but I was too angry to care. As my mother sweated and paled under the collective disapproval, panic set in. "Mary, you're misunderstanding. Let's go inside for now." Misunderstanding? What exactly am I misunderstanding? If you didn't say such things, you should be able to deny it clearly. When my mother fell silent, onlookers started saying, "She's silent, so it must be true." Unbelievable. Something snapped in my mother, and she started shouting, "Shut up. It's all your fault for being unattractive and gloomy. Ugly people should know their place and obediently do what beautiful people say. That's all you're good for." The surrounding people were shocked by her outrageous behavior, quickly uploading videos. The unattractive woman obeys the beautiful woman. The video went viral, reaching my mother's clients, leading to a halt in all transactions. Over the year after my departure, they engaged in fraudulent activities, resulting in bankruptcy when the video surfaced. My mother and sister, now without income, sought refuge at my apartment. However, I refused to open the door. Eventually, they settled in a 45-year-old apartment, living in fear of creditors. My sister's attempts to coast through part-time jobs with flirtation were met with disapproval, leading her to frequently change jobs. As for my mother, the internet video had spread, causing her to be shunned by part-time colleagues. She silently worked alone. In contrast, I found a boyfriend at my new workplace. He may not be conventionally handsome, but he appreciates my dedication and sincerity. We are planning to get married soon, and I am grateful for the diligence